Let's take a moment before we dive in, because, people look at the world's largest salt flat and see a postcard, a mirror, a tourist backdrop. But the reality beneath it is so much stranger, so much more valuable, and honestly, so much more revealing than any photograph floating around the internet. Salar de Uyuni isn't just a landscape, it's a vault of biology, chemistry, geology and, geopolitical tension that most people, historians included, have barely scratched. If you stay for the next minute, you'll understand why this empty plateau in Bolivia is rapidly becoming one of the most contested pieces of ground on the planet. This is one of those places where nature hides its secrets in plain sight, and the deeper you go into its formation, its biology, and its mineral wealth, the more you realize we're dealing with something far beyond a tourist spectacle. So let's open it up layer by layer, like a field historian dissecting a site that doesn't want to be understood. To understand what lies beneath Salar de Uyuni, you first need to understand the forces that created it. This salt flat wasn't born quietly. It is the final stage of a prehistoric lake system that once dominated the Bolivian altiplano. For thousands of years, ancient lakes like Minchin and Tauca filled and emptied in a cycle tied to shifting climate patterns across the Andes. When these vast bodies of water evaporated, they left behind enormous mineral deposits. What remains today is a crust averaging a few meters thick, sometimes smooth, sometimes tessellated into geometric plates, spread across more than 10,000 square kilometers. But that crust is only the lid. All of the real intrigue lies beneath it, locked in brine deposits and geological layers that formed long before humans ever saw this place. If you want a practical historical exercise, compare Salar de Uyuni to regions like the Dead Sea or the Great Salt Lake. Similar origins, similar evaporation, similar concentration processes. But Uyuni is larger, richer, and far more complex. Beneath that quiet, blindingly white surface lies one of the most biologically surprising environments on Earth. For decades, scientists assumed nothing of consequence could survive in the brine trapped under the salt. High salinity, low nutrients, extreme UV exposure, harsh enough to sterilize most life. But as researchers bored deeper, they started finding extremophiles, microbes capable of living in conditions almost no other organisms can withstand. Some clusters feed on sulfur, others manipulate minerals in ways that may resemble early biochemical processes on Earth. This matters for two reasons. First, it gives us a living model for how ancient microbes might have survived millions of years ago. Second, these extremophiles are valuable tools for studying potential extraterrestrial environments, especially Mars, where salt crusts and ancient lake beds also exist. If you're a historian of science or exploration, here is your connection. Discoveries in Uyuni feed directly into planetary models used by current mission designers. So the microbes down there aren't just strange, they're strategic. But biology is only the first secret. The second is far more politically explosive. The colossal lithium-rich brine locked below the crust. Salar de Uyuni contains the world's largest known lithium reserve. Depending on the estimate, it holds a substantial portion of global supply, enough to influence battery production, electric vehicles, grid storage technologies, and every major energy transition plan currently being drafted by industrial nations. Beneath the salt is not a lake in the picturesque sense, but a dense, mineral-rich brine containing lithium, magnesium, potassium, and boron. And here is where the future collides with the past. Historically, salt flats and mineral basins have shaped economies. Think of nitrate booms in Chile or gold rushes across North America. Uyuni is poised to become the next chapter in that lineage. Nations and corporations are competing for access. Bolivia is attempting to maintain national control of its resource, and the world is watching because lithium dictates technological leverage in the 21st century. If you want a practical way to assess what's unfolding here, think about Uyuni the same way you'd study oil fields in the early 20th century. Control of these brine fields means influence over future battery markets. Influence over battery markets means influence over transportation, military energy storage, and renewable grid systems. Anyone who cares about geopolitical strategy should pay attention. The brine isn't just valuable, it's pivotal. And Bolivia's decisions about extraction methods, partnerships, and environmental protections will shape not only its economy, but the balance of technological power among nations. The history buff in you should appreciate the scale of this moment. We are watching the early stages of a global resource contest, the kind historians usually reconstruct decades later from declassified papers and corporate archives. Except now, the contest is happening in real time. What's also hiding beneath Salar de Uyuni is a lesson in patience and precision, because extraction isn't simple. Unlike traditional mining, lithium brine extraction requires pumping the brine up, evaporating it, and separating the minerals, a slow, environmentally complex process. Bolivia's high magnesium content makes the chemistry even more difficult. This is where the average viewer gives up, but serious historians and survival-minded thinkers shouldn't. Understanding resource extraction is part of understanding how societies rise, how they collapse, and how industries dictate national trajectories. When you see how Uyuni's brine behaves, how long evaporation takes, and how fragile the salt crust is, you gain insight into why this region has remained undeveloped for so long, and why its future is still uncertain. In the end, what's hiding beneath the world's largest salt flat isn't a single revelation, but a trilogy of significance: ancient biology, geological wealth, and geopolitical pressure. The microbes tell us where life can survive. The lithium tells us where the future of energy may be decided. The competition for access tells us that the next global scramble for resources is already underway. If you want more deep dives into the strange places where history, science, and hidden forces meet, subscribe to Strange Planet and share this episode. The more informed our community becomes, the better we can read the world's hidden layers.